City of Truro is seen here in 1991 entering Bewdley Station, temporarily renamed Hilton, on the Severn Valley Railway. The vacuum brake scavenger pump fitted to GWR engines can be heard spitting as the engine pulls into the platform. The engine stands in a typically GWR period setting as it awaits the right-of-way to travel up the valley to Bridge North, while a Hall Class 460 rolls into the station. The details of the Dean pattern outside framed bogie, outside framing and coupling rod cranks can be clearly seen as the train departs. Two masterpieces are seen together as City of Truro crosses the Victoria Bridge over the Severn at Arley. As City of Truro leaves Bewdley, her distinctive whistle echoes across the valley. As the train climbs, the crisp sound and even rhythm of the exhaust shows the excellence of the steam distribution provided by Churchward's long travel valves and Stephenson's link motion. As the train climbs towards Arley, the large Belpaire firebox and tapered domeless boiler barrel can be seen clearly. The Swindon Standard No. 4 boiler collected the steam for the regulator from a perforated pipe at the front of the firebox crown. Either side of the safety valve bonnet, the water feed pipes from the injectors can be seen going into the clack valve housings. These delivered the cold feed water into the boiler at the point where it would cause least thermal stress, and where it could most rapidly prevent wasteful blowing off. The cylindrical smoke box was much less prone to leakage and greatly eased boiler lifting when necessary. City of Truro's cab was distinctly Spartan. One can only imagine the conditions on the footplate at 100 miles per hour. As City of Truro leaves Bridge North for Bewdley and Kidderminster, the difficulties caused by the limited adhesion of a 4-coupled engine can be heard as she struggles to grip the rails. For this reason, Churchwood favoured 6-coupled engines. The cylinder draincocks releasing condensed water from the cylinders caused by a cold start obscure the driver's lookout, as carrying an express headlamp code, the engine overcomes the combination of a heavy train and rising gradient. The train climbs the 1 in 100 bank, passing the West Midlands Safari Park as it climbs away from Bewdley towards Foley Park Tunnel and Kidderminster. "3717 leaves Derby on the Birmingham line, former Midland Railway territory. As she accelerates away, City of Truro shows that 90 years of life has done nothing to reduce her pace. Climbing the steep gradient from the junction shows again that a high-powered four-coupled engine needs skillful driving to keep its feet and avoid slipping. On the 9th of May 1964, there was great expectation at Paddington as enthusiasts arrived in droves to watch the departure of the high-speed Great Western commemorative train to Plymouth. Although commemorating City of Truro's historic record 60 years on to the day, the Great Western was to be worked by Castle-class engines on what was assumed would be the last chance for them to show their prowess in the face of increasing diesel domination. Number 4079 Pendennis Castle, crewed by driver Alf Perfect and firemen Doug Godden and Brian Green, backs into Platform 2 to join the train. With a castle in superb condition, a top link footplate crew, and a tender full of the finest Ogilvy Welsh steam coal, there was an atmosphere of intense excitement as a really high-speed run was scheduled for special Z48. Driver Alf Perfect stands relaxed in front of his charge for the photographers. Firemen Doug Godden and Brian Green get in on the act for a crew portrait as well. They have more than 200 miles of heavy shoveling ahead of them. Passengers join the train, and a clean departure is made from Paddington before threading the complex maze of tracks outside the station. Crowds look on as Pendennis Castle starts to get into her stride onto the down fast line. Out into rural Buckinghamshire, and Brunel's billiard table enables some really high-speed running as a Hymek Type 3 diesel hydraulic passes on the up fast line. Berkshire has really been flashing by as the special overtakes a rail car on the down relief line and tears through Reading before turning onto the Berks and Wilts direct line to Taunton at Reading East Junction. An extremely high-speed climb up to Savernake summit ensues. Fireman Doug Godden tells the tale of disaster that followed. Watch out for the fire being dropped by the melted fire bars.
And everything was really good. The speed of the train was increasing, and Alf Perfect was determined to get a higher speed as possible down through Levington Bank. What happened was we was well over 90 miles an hour. I think it was about 93, 94, and suddenly the brakes goes on. And we thought, someone's pulled the communication cord. I cannot believe what was happening. And we came to a stand, immediately running back to meet the guy, and he says, the sparks are coming from under the engine. You must have an axle box or something's gone underneath the engine. On examination, we found that the fire bars had dropped, and unfortunately we had no indication of this at all before it happened. So we was fully despondent at this stage, and we had to communicate with the signalman on the IBS signal to tell him that we wanted to change our engine at Westbury. There was no standby engine, so we was instructed to take an engine off the fire pit which had done a day's work, and which happened to be 69.99. Well, the tender was half full of coal, and it was what we call Easter eggs. They were small balls mixed up with small coal and cement. So we had no option but to take this engine, and we got off shed as quick as we possibly could, and Brian Green started to make the fire up, which was right down onto the fire bars. A lot of smoke was coming out the chimney, and myself was up in the tender dragging the coal forward as much as possible, and in a very short time we was on our way again.
Tom Boddington, who filmed these events, takes up the story with Doug Godden.
Pendennis Castle goes on to Westbury Shed. Capeldowie Hall made a splendid run to Taunton, and touching 86 at Curry Rival Junction, 80 at Athelney, 77 at Coglow Junction, and 75 at Creech Junction. Taunton had the nearest standby castle, 7025 Sudeley Castle.
We were quite amazed at the performance of 69.99. On the outskirts of Taunton, Creek Junction, we took some water, and quite frankly we was discussing amongst ourselves whether we would even stop at Taunton, but it was decided that we did stop at Taunton to change the engine, which was a standby engine. So and then we left Taunton determined to get back as much time as possible.
Having made a superb run up Whiteball Bank and through Exeter, the crew has a chance to build up the fire as the train skims along the Devon coastline, in readiness for the ferocious climb to Dainton. On this section, the engine more than speaks for itself as the power of steam is dramatically unleashed. Look out for the dramatic change of gradient inside Dainton Tunnel. onlooking photographers are left deafened and awestruck. As Sudeley Castle winds its train down towards Totnes, one of the firemen pushes coal forward in the tender. As the train storms through Totnes, it attacks another steep climb, Rattery Bank, which will take it 500 feet up onto the slopes of Dartmoor. Sudeley Castle hammers away with steam to spare on curving gradients as steep as 1 in 52. By Rattery Box, the worst of the gradients have been overcome. Tom Boddington summarises the run as the train drops into Plymouth.
So, comparing running with the 1903 to 1904 era, 7025 was certainly handicapped by the need to observe speed restrictions west of Exeter. However, speeds of 62 through Wellington, 44 Whitehall Box, 80 and then a 65 speed restriction at Tiverton Junction, 81 Stoke Cannon, 75 Exminster, 68 at Hemerdon Box, helped to make this a splendid run despite a signal check just before Exeter down to 40 miles per hour and permanent way slack near Rangerton. The London crew on their third engine that day did well to arrive just 51 seconds outside the scheduled time of 97 minutes from passing Taunton to Plymouth. I stress passing because they did it from a standing start.
The London crew hand over the engine to a Plymouth crew, who take the engine off to Lara Sheds after a superb performance. "40 years later, as City of Truro begins her centenary run, Carl Jauncey takes up the story at Bristol Temple Meads.
At a time when running mainline steam is becoming harder and harder, this event was one that did make it against all the odds. After years of planning involving the overhaul of 3440 City of Truro, the loco strides into Temple Meads Station at the start of two very historic runs, celebrating the centenary of the loco's place in history as the first man-made machine to achieve 100 miles per hour. Whilst filming this shot, I almost had to pinch myself to wake up out of a dream as the train approached with the realisation that 3440 would have come down this very same cutting 100 years before.
Much of this journey will speak for itself as City of Truro climbs Whiteball Bank out of Somerset into Devon. Turning along the South Devon coastline, the train provides a photographer's delight. This was a stretch of line beloved of the GWR's publicity department. One could almost imagine that God's wonderful railway had never gone away. This train was destined for Kingswear rather than Plymouth, but City of Truro can still turn a mean wheel as she speeds along beside the Tyne en route to Newton Abbot. The sharp gradient up from Goodrington to Churston makes 3717 speak up a bit. The terminus of the Torbay and Dartmouth Steam Railway is in sight, as with Dartmouth on the opposite bank of the River Dart, the train triumphantly arrives in Kingswear. In glorious weather, and with Paynton and Berry Head in the background, the record breaker sets out on the return journey to Bristol. After the sharp climb from Paynton through Torr, the last sequence shows City of Truro in its 101st year, romping down Wellington Bank on the very stretch where she broke the 100-mile-per-hour barrier on March the 9th, 1904. 100 definitely not out.